Going up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So, I now know which floor my main base is on. Yep, I think I have a new mission. Hi there, and welcome back to my Tech It world. And you might be able to see I've put on a Christmas hat to prepare for the festive season. Looks perhaps a little better from the back where you can see the thing hanging down. Yeah, okay, right, I've been busy. First of all, this area, I've prepared this. Get rid of F3, there we go. This area is intended to be... Oh, that frame rate is horrible. I probably ought to restart the computer, but never mind. I've had a few problems with Final Cut Pro, misbehaving and going very slow, and I think it's still got some processes running in the background. Anyhow, this area here at the corner of the factory, there's the factory in there, is intended to be where power and things will probably get processed eventually. So the idea will be we'll have maybe wind farms, maybe solar things on the roof, and then there's this whole tower of space here in order to process the power down to different voltages, something like that. Anyhow, there's that. There is... what has been changed around here? Had some problems with this. Suddenly came back after doing some work elsewhere to find that there were no blaze rods going around. So it got a little behind, but after sorting it out, it's now getting back on track. I've done a quick calculation, timed it on this. It's producing roughly 1 diamond's worth of EMC every second. So each red matter's taking approximately 2 minutes to generate, which translates to about, roughly speaking, a diamond a second, which is similar to what I'm getting from the collectors outside in the other area. And I've got rid of the chest that was here. It was pointless. So the condenser here is turning it into blaze rods, and I'd pointlessly got a buffer down there which is not needed. And because I've managed to get 4 redstone engines pumping those out, and I could only fit 3 around the output of the chest, it was pointlessly slowing things down. So now I've got rid of the chest, it's working a little quicker. You can see it's now keeping it fully stocked, and it is having to use the advanced insertion pipes to route things back around that way. So it's going at full whack with the power that's available, which is, with one overclocker, is doing fine. Okay, let's start off over here. One of the things I've changed. So I'd opened this area up down here a while back. I found a use for it. So I've put some of these coke ovens in there, and they're busy processing coal into coal coke and creosote oil, and I've got 3 of those, and I'm collecting those over here, and you can see how much coal coke has managed to accumulate, and creosote oil, and condense some coal ready to keep these topped up. Yep, okay, I've opened up this area as another floor. So we have the let's go up to the top. So we have the factory floor here. Yeah, and below that we have the lighting gantry-way, and on this floor I've changed all these as well. So I'd come up with the way of having the panels there and running the bundled cable, forgotten what they're called, up the panel, and instead I've gone for these are the jacketed cable. So I can't remember what these are called. These must be bundled cable. And connecting them with redstone wire, red wire, that on the bottom anyway. And I think this just looks a bit neater. So you don't now have the pillar and the wire having to do a little zigzag around it. It can now be nice straight runs in each direction. Yeah, this is what they looked like before. So they had like a panel coming down there, and you had a sort of kink bit in the wire around each one. Now I think it just looks a lot neater like that. Anyhow, there's that, and then what else is there? Let's have over here. I'm going to be going around a few times around the factory because I'm going to forget which bits I want to show off. So let's go up to this floor. So this area here, I've slightly changed this. Thought it looked like it was taking up too much space. Certainly didn't need to go down to the ground because you can still get up the ladder without it. So get up to this floor this way. I've added the light. I'm not sure if they were in the previous video, but they are now. And then there's this. Been busy opening out space. So this is the zombie spawner, which comes down just behind that area there. And this is the bluetricity coming down from the panels on the floor, ceiling, roof. Not sure what you call it when it's the floor outside and the ceiling in here. But anyway, it comes down there to the back boxes down there. And I've been opening up all inside this mountain for something. It's a bit big for a data center now. I'm thinking this is now feeling more like an office space. So big open plan offices down there. This is there for a reason. There's the wire here for these lights comes up from the switch down below at that point. So that's there in the floor as a marker to remind me. Over here I've tidied this bit up a bit. So instead of having the lever to open these piston doors there, tucked away in an awkward place, they're now in a more visible place. And the trick to that was to get one of these. Was it to get one of those? No, the trick to that was realizing that you can use these panels or cover blocks to prevent the redstone wire connecting. So that was key to that bit. Seems to have something in my inventory which I shouldn't have, but anyway, let's put those back. And I've used that trick in quite a few places now, and that was thanks to FMB's YouTube videos, FMB channel, something like that I think they're called. I'll put a link in the description if I remember. Oops, missed. Horrible lag. So what else have we done? Right, I'll set this door opening just so it'll be able to get in and out a lot easier. Look at that majestic door working fine. So lots more room in here as well. So move these up off the floor onto there. It looks a lot neater. And this now works a bit better. So we've now got the world time being displayed, which means you can make sure it's still running. I've changed this bit here so that the abort lever is now an abort button instead. And this is the light switch. So that turns all the lights off all the way around and turns them back on again. Oh, and obviously it goes down a lot further than it did before. And let's just abort this a second. So I've also edited the program now, so it's a lot neater. I've even put a comment in there, look. So it now works in a much better way. So it creates a variable called mon, which points to the peripheral, which is the monitor on the left. It then clears the terminal, which is the main computer screen here. It then sets the cursor to the top left. That had me stumped for ages. I was assuming that the top left was 0, 0 and it's 1, 1. And if you set it to 0, 0, nothing prints. Caught me out for ages, that did. Then it prints the running the monitor program on there. So that is, if I just exit from there and then run it, that's this message that you get on there. Oops, I'll need to abort that again. There we go. And back in, find the keyboard. Oops, there we go. So it sets that just so there's a message on there. Then it redirects the output from the terminal to the monitor. That just makes everything so much simpler. There's also then an optional statement here to increase the size of the text on the monitor. So if I run include that monitor, everything's nice and big for the hard of seeing. So you can see that from a distance. It's useful for debugging if you're all the way over here. It's now much easier to read the text, but it's a little big, looks a bit awkward on there. So generally I've been not running it at that size. So just comment that one out again. So the loop still stays the same. So while there's no input and C is still 0, clear the monitor, set the cursor to the top left. Now it writes the world timeout. Now, because I've redirected the terminal output, I can now use the simple print statement to put things on the screen. And the advantage of using print is it includes a new line instead of having to position the cursor explicitly all the time, which is much better. And then it still has to do the running the shell command to run the red probe, but now instead of having to run shell.run and followed by the monitor command and which monitor to run on and then the command, it can now just run it because the terminal output is redirected to the monitor all the time. I've also reduced the sleep time to just 0.2 of a second, just so that it updates a little quicker, and then it still does the same there. It then just prints a lot simpler things out at the end, and the last one, the important one, is this line there, which restores the output back to the main terminal before it's aborted. Now the downside of doing things this way is that if you abort out of it like so, it's now running on here. So that was using Control T to abort the program instead of using the button up there, and it leaves the output over here. So if we then do Edit A, you can see it's all being edited on this monitor, and the annoying thing is because we're over here we can't actually see what we're doing. In fact, what may be easier is to just force a reboot of the whole computer. Anyhow, this wall here, getting back to the important thing, is extra power for this battery box. So the solar cells on the roof were doing not a bad job of keeping things powered, but opening and closing these doors quite frequently, particularly during testing, was getting a little low at times. So this should sort that out. These are thermopiles, and each one has a block of lava under it and is then surrounded by water, and that temperature difference gives you bluetricity coming out of it. This isn't the best layout for it because you lose power the longer this run is, but I only really had one direction to run the cable off in. I didn't want to take off all the space by running this in multiple directions to keep the cable run down, and it works, it'll do. Okay, so what I've done is I've minimized the space it does by using the panel blocks, and I've also opened out this bit so I'll now get a nice viewing area out towards the volcano in the distance, which I still haven't done anything with, but I'm sure I will. And I opened out this area, so similar to the floor below, it's now got a nice big open area ready to start using. So that's most of it for around this area. I can't believe I've messed that up and I can't remember the command. I'll get back to it. Mine goes blank when you're trying to dictate. Commentate, that's the word, at the same time. So this area, which is where all the wiring was before, also now looks much neater. So whereas before you could see all the bundled cables, you could see all the redstone wire and everything else, now the bundled cables come down here and disappears under the floor and disappears up there to the buttons, all nicely filled in. The only bit you can see is this bit, and this is because this just gives you an access way into the trunking if you need it. So if you need to get behind here, particularly if I've messed anything up and I need to get back behind there to repair things, that's there. These two have to be solid blocks because the back planes for the computer above refuse to sit on the panel blocks or the cover blocks. If you try to place them on there, they pop off each time, so I end up with these lumps in the middle. Now the other bit to note down here is these things. So these are the wireless receivers for the buttons, so I can control them from everywhere, and previously I had a pulse former here on the end of it to take the signal, which was being a little too brief for the software I'd written to pick up the pulses and turn them into a longer pulse. Didn't work brilliantly. Now I do know it's because I've written the program badly. The way I've written things in Forth there is it actually checks for an input and destroys what it reads and then checks again to see what key is pressed. Now, if I'd written it better, it would have waited until it finds a key's pressed or a button's pressed and then kept that value that it read in doing so in order to know what to do with it. I can't be bothered to go back and rewrite them, if I'm honest. Fourth's a pain, live with it. So what I'm doing is making the best of what I've got instead, and that is having to extend the signal from these wireless transmitters slightly. So what I've put in there is a state cell, I think they're called. Pretty sure they're state cells. And what this does is, as soon as it gets a signal on here, this will count for a length of time which you can determine and put an output over here. Now, annoyingly, it doesn't do it in a straight line. So the signal will come in here and it always goes out to the left. So whereas I've got these nicely lined up to match with the cables on the other side, I've had to put a little kink in where the signal goes round there and back. And similarly on this one, it goes around there and off to the left and back. But since it's all hidden away now under panel blocks, cover blocks, I don't really care. You can maybe see a bit more of it here. So this one goes over there and joins onto the pink wire, which then joins the bundled wire. And this one goes over there, joins the brown wire, and then joins the bundled wire there. The other part of this that I've tidied up is all over here. So now the bundled cable still has to do this little, let's just open this up just so I can show you. Yeah, it has to do a little bit of a dance here over the top of the Bluetricity cable here. So the Bluetricity comes down from the battery box there and needs to cross over the bundled cable at some point. So I had two ways of doing it. Either the Bluetricity goes above or it goes below. And I ended up with the bundled cable wanting to go on the floor and the Bluetricity cable just looked ugly going on the top, so I've compromised. So they're both going underneath and one has to go under the other at some point. I've managed to lose a couple of stone cover blocks in the process. I'll get them back. And no, I haven't got any. Okay. But you can get the idea. So this has to do a little dance coming up and back down again. And then here, whereas before I'd got the cables splitting off to keep them separate, I'm now using, if you can see there, that cover block there in the middle to keep the cables from joining where the redstone wire has to join them on at the top. So by using that panel cover block thing in between, it keeps the two signals separate. And similarly over here, it's now much more efficient in terms of the bundled cable comes across and these run off there and there. And round the back, we have the bundled cable goes off now to the brown, which is for the opening the glass door, and the green, which is the signal for when the main door is opened, which I've still not used, but never mind. And here you can see a perfect example of using these cover blocks, panels, cover things to keep the signal separate. So the important part is this point down the bottom and this point at the top, because there's actually the jacketed cable goes up then with red wire to join it to the wool blocks. If you don't have anything between them, they will join across there and there. But simple trick, put that in between, you can then keep it a lot simpler. So I end up saving a lot of space. So I think that's it for that bit. What else is there? Oh yes, this bit, which has now become probably the main project to do, which is to extend the size of this base vertically. So this is now floor 16, which gives you an idea of how big things have got. So floor 15 is the wiring floor for the lights. That's a nice simple one. And floor 14 is where the coke ovens are over there. So we have this space all hollowed out. Floor 13, I've begun to hollow out. Nowhere near as far yet, although I've gone more in this direction on that floor for some reason. Ah yes, it's because over here, this is actually the staircase from the main base going down to the mine shaft. I can hear zombies around there somewhere. Never mind. back all the way over here to the elevator, which is what I should explain. The idea is this shaft here, which is currently just a ladder, I want to turn into a computerized elevator system going to all these floors, so that you can press a button and it will call a box controlled by frame motors to the floor that you're on, and then press a button, choose something on a terminal, not quite sure how I'm going to do that bit, to take you down to whichever floor you want. That's the plan. And then floor 12, which has begun to get hollowed out as well, and then it gets quicker after this, because I think that's the last one that I've really done any work on. Oh no, floor 11 is an interesting one because it actually opens out into an area here which I'd explored previously, because the mine shaft staircase came down here, and this area here was an area I kept getting mobs and creepers coming out of, and that's the view there down to the main staircase. So I now have in mind turning this into a sort of feature room where there'll be this indoor pool similar to what I'd done in my first world actually, and we'll see how that goes. And then we go down to the next floor, and then they definitely get quicker because I haven't done anything with that floor or that floor or that floor, or 7, 6, 5, 4. Better get a sword ready because I can hear something going. Floor 2 crashes into an area that I'd explored previously when hunting diamonds. So this goes off in multiple directions, but mostly somewhere, where is it? That way is back to where the main base was very early on. Lots of exploring around this area for diamonds, and at some point I must have come down this way and opened up this bit. So this floor is going to open out into that area, and then lastly this one, which is just a few blocks above bedrock. So this is Y7, and literally about 2 blocks further down from that is where I hit bedrock. So yeah, that's it for this. I'm going to fly up there to get up there quicker. Obviously no lift's going to be as quick as this, so it's a fairly pointless exercise, similar to this huge door, because it's actually much quicker to fly up and down than it is to use a lift. But what would be the fun of Tekkit without setting yourself challenges? So I think that's a catch-up of everything. It's actually been a lot of time and effort spent on this. Lots of building things one way, changing of minds, doing things differently, particularly around how to cable these wires in to keep things as efficient as possible. And lots of different pathways now round to different areas to get in and out of the zombie spawner and things like that. But it's coming together quite nicely, and I think the next thing I need to do is really get to grips with pneumatic tubes and pipes, and the reason for that is I want to convert a lot of the red matter I've got into materials for the future, just in case. Anyhow, that's it for now, and I'll see you later. Bye.